Hey guys, Tekking here. So I said I was going to do this. Last video I did was about Sanji's special ability, Diabo Jambe. So I thought, okay, I want to talk about another ability that was introduced right around the same time that Sanji used Diabo Jambe. It was used by Zoro in the Enies Lobby arc. It really seemed like this was the arc where Oda decided, like, okay, these opponents that the Straw Hats are fighting are a little bit stronger, so I'm just going to give them these new techniques that they can use to fight against them. So Luffy gets Gear second and third, Sanji gets Diabo Jambe, and Zoro gets a technique called Asura, or Nine Sword Style, Q Toryu, where through some method he manages to manifest two other, I don't want to say clones, because they're not, like, they're really not, like, they don't, like, separate from him. It's like he resembles an Asura, or like a demon with, like, multiple arms and multiple heads, and so he turns into this form, so he has 3 swords in his mouth, and then he has 6 arms, each holding a blade, and then he uses this ability to defeat Kaku. He uses the ability again during Sabaody to fight against a PX4, but we don't really see him use it after that. Not because he can't use it, or not because there's a downside of it. I personally think the reason we haven't seen Asura after the time skip, and he's used it in some of the movies, but we haven't seen him use it canonically since Sabaody. I think the real reason he hasn't used it past the time skip is because he just thinks it would be fucking overkill. You know, like, because we've seen how badass Zoro is after the time skip. You know, he took out Pika, who was literally a mountain. Zoro cut up a mountain. Alright, and he didn't even, all he had to do there was just hockey up his regular sword. I mean, he's not gonna go overkill for a fucking giant mountain. I mean, come on now, really. So yeah, we're going to talk about Asura today, the basis of it, and what it could really mean, like how he's using this power. And I think it would really tie back into the way that Oda wants to represent these characters. So I was talking about how a big thing with Sanji's character was that fiery passion that burns inside of him, you know, to defend the ladies, very chivalrous, very knightly. You know, that's not something that's just a character trait, that's something that can be translated into his abilities. Zoro has something very similar to that. Zoro has a trait with his character that Oda tends to give him, a little bit of a reoccurring thing that pops up with his techniques and everything, although it's a little bit more complicated than Sanji's, like, passionate nature.
Walk along the path to enlightenment.
Many of Zoro's techniques harken back to Buddhist teachings and lore. For instance, his Poundaho techniques is like his you know, flying sword thrust techniques. So he has the 36 Poundaho, the 72 Poundaho, and then the 108 Poundaho. After the time skip, these evolve into like 360, 720, 1080, but the original numbers, 36, 72, 108, those are all very relevant numbers in Buddhist teachings. That's also the reason, fun fact, why the member of the worst generation, Mad Monk Rouge, his bounty when he was first introduced was 108 million. You know, he had the lowest bounty out of all of the supernovas, so you might think, oh man, he's kind of the weakest. But no, I think Oda gave him that bounty just really to show his connections to Buddhism and the fact that he's a monk, possibly even a Mahdi monk. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So yeah, that's what, you know, Oda likes to do. You know, Buddhism and Shinto is a very, you know, very prominent religion in Japan, the most prominent actually. So, you know, that just, you know, just makes sense why he would throw those connections in there.
Pain is an excellent teacher.
There's some other connections that Zoro has whenever he does his 3,000 worlds, you know, the, you know, my blade cuts through everything, the crossing of the 3,000 upon 3,000 world, the great triclasm, you know, that kind of shit. That's also harkens to some Buddhist teachings and stuff. So then we get to Asura. Now, Asura doesn't just have connections with Buddhism alone. There's also some things going into Hindu teachings as well, but very Eastern religions, okay? So in Buddhism, you basically have 6 realms called samsara, and this is like the cycle of perpetual rebirth, and then you live, and then you collect karma and all that shit. I'm not going to go way into that. If you're interested in me explaining Buddhist teachings to you, probably very incorrectly because I'm not a Buddhist, go check out this video where I talk about Bleach and Buddhism and the connections there. But one of these 6 realms, you know, you have the Deva realm, which is like the realm of gods, you have the human realm, you have the beast realm and the ghost realm and the hell realm, but the other realm you got, the 6th one, is the Asura realm. This can also be referred as the realm of titans or the realm of demigods. Basically, it's people that, you know, they committed, you know, evil deeds in their lives or something like that. They get sent there, and that's how that cycle of reincarnation works. Don't ask me to explain the differences between Asura and Hell. I think the only difference is I think in some realms you can collect karma and sometimes you can't. Like I said, not a Buddhist, don't know the extent of the teachings here. But yeah, there is a realm named the Asura realm, right? And in Hindu teachings, there are actual beings called Asura, which are these 6-armed, multiple-headed beings. And you don't even need to look as far into, like, religion to learn this. I mean, you could just look into other anime, like in Naruto, you have Pain's different paths, and each path is named after a realm of Buddhist teachings. One of them is the Asura realm. That's like the robotic puppet dude, and he's got a shit ton of arms, and that's the reason there. And he's got 3 heads. He's got 3 faces, so that would explain that. Even Kishin in Soul Eater, Ashura, the Kishin in Soul Eater, he has like multiple like cloth tentacles that he uses to fight, and has like 3 eyes. So that you know relates back to that as well.
To deal death, one must embrace life.
Anyway, Asura itself, it's weird how he does this, because unlike Diabo Jambe and unlike Luffy's Gear 2nd and 3rd, it seems like those guys kind of worked at that. You know, like Sanji, I don't know if Sanji planned on using Diabo Jambe, like he figured it, but maybe he just thought, you know, Sanji's not an idiot. Maybe he thought, if I just spin around really fast, I'll light my leg on fire. It's worth a shot, right? You know? Luffy, we know, did develop Gear 2nd and 3rd after he was defeated by Aokiji, after he saw the CP9 using techniques like Soru. You know, Luffy's been always a guy that's pretty good at soaking up techniques on the battlefield, like he did like the Gum Gum Baku Baku, you know, he learns from his opponents and shit. So that's how he came up with Gear 2nd and 3rd, kind of like developing those behind the scenes. But with Zoro's Asura, it really does feel like Zoro he didn't train with this ability, it just kind of awakened when he reached a certain level of bloodthirst or a certain level of power, of training. You know, because an element of Zoro's character, even as far back as when he was first introduced. Remember when Zoro was first introduced in One Piece? People like Alvida and Kobe talked about him like he was a fucking demon. And you'd see, like, the silhouette of him, like, the blackened silhouette with, like, the demon eye, like... Okay, I can't do it very well, but you know what I mean. Like, that's what he was appearing as. That's what Oda was going with ever since the really beginning. He's not a bad guy, but when he does flip the switch and he goes into, like, you know, battle mode, kill mode, he puts on the fucking bandana. I'm not going to say that Haki doesn't have a part in it, because you can always imagine, like, Zoro going to totally do now. But I really think it's more into the symbolism of the story that you have to look fired up whenever he's fighting for something, like a woman that he cares about or something. I'm going to make that fire.